What is up? I am Miguel Antonio, and this is the Live and Create podcast. It's where I visit with artists and entrepreneurs about living a great life and creating great things. And you're watching the pre COVID edition. It's a series of interviews I did just about a year ago, and then a whole lot of life and COVID happened. And now, here a year later, we're getting them out to you because there's a lot of value in these people's stories that I got to sit down and visit with. On this episode, we hang out with Eddie Moore. He teaches me what a Monte Cristo waffle is. We talk about his life as a performer, a music educator. We dive a little bit into meditation, and we go really into this idea of the necessity of diversity from everything from food to music to our entire lives. I hope you guys enjoy it.
The Live and Create podcast.
So what we'll do is we'll dive into probably the most important question. I think I would just start out strong. Okay. So if Pancake and French toast got in a fight, who would win?
Waffles.
Waffles. Throw another one in there. I love it.
I like neither, actually.
Neither one.
Yeah, I really don't like pancakes that much.
Okay.
And if it goes anything like that, it's waffles all the way. They're kind of crispy. You toast them.
Got this super informal. I just realized I forgot to put down the audio thing.
Okay.
We'll get that in there. We'll leave this all in.
I know this is like not the answer I want.
I love it. Waffle. Perfect. And let me check your mic too.
Yeah.
So Eddie's one of our first few, so I'm still learning. Don't blame it on Eddie, but we're in there.
No, all good.
But that's awesome, man.
Waffle. Monte Cristo.
Monte Cristo?
Yeah.
Cigars?
Well, no, it's like a...
Oh, sorry.
I think
this is a waffle?
It's like fried French toast.
Really?
Yeah, like a fried French toast, grilled cheese with like ham, and they fry it.
Wow.
And then you eat
I
it
didn't
with
even
like
know
jelly.
that existed. So
Oh,
it's
crazy.
fried French toast with grilled cheese in it?
Yeah, and I believe ham, like almost like a ham
And you
sandwich.
put syrup on it?
Yeah, it's powder and everything, and you can either eat it with syrup or jelly.
Where do you eat this at?
I got this
That sounds
one.
amazing.
We did. It was like a waffle festival in not Salina, Lindsborg,
Lindsberg? Okay.
which I think is a Swedish community.
Right
and they were
on.
super cool, and they had those for breakfast.
That sounds legit,
I was just
man.
like, this is awesome.
I remember the first time I had chicken and waffles, and that
Okay.
blew my mind. And so this sounds like it's a whole other step, beyond.
I can't imagine if you ate that every day.
Yeah, I don't think any time in the gym is going to help at that point. So.
No.
Well, go and break down for me, man. Because you're a busy dude.
Mm-hmm.
You're in a lot of things, doing a lot of cool things. So break down the things you're up to in the arts world, what that looks like for me.
I'm always a sideman, so I'm playing keyboard for a lot of different people. Anything from like rap, hip hop, rock, reggae. So with 77, last night we were in North Kansas City. I'm also teaching a lot, which is great. So I teach private lessons, and then I teach in college, just doing like private jazz instruction, which can actually cover anything from basic piano technique to composition and improvisation. It's a huge spectrum. And then have my own projects, Eddie Moore in the Outer Circle, and then I'm working on a new album for We the People.
Okay.
So doing a lot of writing, trying to get a looping drum piano project off the ground
So
for next year.
looping piano stuff?
Yeah, looping
That's
piano
legit. I
and
dig it.
key bass and synth. Yeah, I'll just
That's
play
when
all
we
of it.
first met, you were playing bass, synth,
Yeah.
and piano, and I'm
Yeah.
trying to fill in my guitar, feeling lame because you're doing 5 people's parts.
So something like that.
Okay.
I'm with Ableton, so I've been learning a lot of computer music.
Right on.
And diving deep into that. So a lot of my spare time is there.
That's awesome.
And then just trying to live life, be healthy, and hang out. I guess I forget about family and stuff.
Your family's in there too, dude.
Yeah. I was thinking today, my girlfriend was like, "Well, do you want to come see my family?" And And I was like, "Oh man, it's my day off. Can I chill?" But then I was like,
You were thinking about waffles or something.
"Yeah."
It's if I put cheese in the middle of that.
So I gotta remember to take a breath, come up for some fresh air. You
Right.
know?
Well, what does that look like for you? Because we'll definitely jump more into the music, but just got to live life. What
Right.
does that look like? Not just your Sunday, but
Yeah.
what's living life for you?
It's an interesting, man. It's just the simple things I guess we forget about. Spending time with friends and family. I grew up as an only child, so I could get wrapped up in my own life. But you know, when the music calms down, you look around and you're like, okay, where are my friends? What are they doing, like, off the computer? Right. And just, like, exercising is, I think, a big part of it. I spend a lot of time thinking about longevity and, like, exercising and how can I regulate my diet and eating, because our schedule is all over the place. And then, like, making time to meditate and read. Those are very important things for sanity and just growth, you know?
What's meditation look like for you? That's something I've been trying to do, but like, what approach do you take?
I just take kind of like I guess like a basic one. I do like 10, 15 minutes of silent meditation.
Just complete, like silence. Is it more clear in the mind, or you have like
like clearing the mind. I don't like to listen to anything because then I'm focused on that as a musician, opposed to focusing on like what my body's doing and breathing and relaxing and just like being in the moment. So totally silent. I usually stretch before and just kind of get into it, and it really helps. It really helps me like be more driven or more focused on my goals and not so sporadic on all these things that I feel like I have to do in the deadlines tomorrow.
Right on.
You know what I mean?
I talk to a lot, because one thing I speak about like depression and anxiety has been a big piece of my story. And as I ask other people how they dealt with their anxiety or any different ailments, meditation comes up.
Meditation.
And everyone has a different approach, but it's been really fascinating to me that that's becoming quickly a part of many people's lives. Where did it start for you?
I guess my girlfriend kind of brought me into it, and just friends like telling me that, because I'm kind of manic when my mind runs all the time and I have trouble sleeping with that, especially when we're deep in projects. And so a friend kind of set me down and wanted me to try it with him, and it really worked. I didn't really think I could sit there for 10 minutes in silence.
It seems forever.
Yeah, it does seem forever. And then I kind of was doing it wrong at first. Like, I let my mind wander and would focus on the things that my mind would usually wonder about and follow the trail, but then even like kind of resolving it or seeing where it was. And that helped in a way. Yeah. But then as I did more reading about it, it was like, you don't want to do that. And actually, when you realize that it's happening is a very powerful moment, because then you can come back and then focus on like the moment and what's going on. And it really helps the anxiety and helps me like just kind of relax and calm down.
That's cool, man.
You know, being a band leader and a musician, and it's like all these things that have to happen now. And they're not going to happen now.
Right. No. And that's what I think the drivenness of this, I think of the artist world as a very entrepreneurial world. Yes. And it just seems like I meet so many people. We all have this drive. And I remember I started meditating when my last band was on tour. Okay. And I started noticing, like, I'll never forget, we were playing as a college. Where we were at, you could see Canada is like just over the lake. So it's like back mountains kind of thing. It was one of the first times like in the middle of the set. And we're playing, doing our thing, but it was the first time I just noticed, like, sun's setting. This is fun. Like, I just had never took time, and it was the first time my brain would just, like, stop in the middle of everything.
Right,
right. What is, you were talking about, like, working out and everything. Are you, like, lifter? Are you a runner? What are you into?
I'm definitely not a runner anymore. No, not happening. I like to ride the bike. I grew up riding bikes, so I can kind of focus in on and not get bored.
Right on.
So I might do like, I'd probably do cardio every time I go, probably like 15, 20 minutes.
Nice.
And try to keep a pace, so I'm looking at the RPMs and just kind of like changing it on the go.
Cool.
And then I'm a lifter. Nice. And so I just rotate lifting between different body parts. Being a pianist, I'm using my upper body muscles all the time. Yeah. So I've been noticing that, you know, with the tightness in my arms and my elbows, I have to be very conscious of what I'm going to work out and what other musical things I'm doing. So like, don't do shoulders when you got a duo gig and you're playing, like, you know, for hours, because it's just too much.
No, I get that. Like, there was a show we were on a big stage. It was a full band thing, so I knew it'd be jumping around. I was like, can't do leg day. I could see myself, like, jumping off the platform, like, oh, shit.
Yeah, right. But it also helps, you know. We were talking a little bit, like, I guess a couple days ago, and, you know, I can listen to music and focus in on that, especially when I'm on the bike. And I, like, work out to, like, crazy different stuff. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just, like, I don't need music to, like, set the mood.
Yeah, that's right. You were saying you listen to, like, jazz trio stuff.
I'll be listening to some, like, intense jazz trio stuff, or,
I'm
like...
over there with System of a Down blaring in my... and you're like...
you hear this bride, as I walk by people, they're hearing this bride cymbal in my ear, and they're like, what is going on with this dude? And so it kind of helps, and just focusing on some things. I mean, I want to feel like how I did at 16, I'll double that now.
And then but that's, like you said, the longevity.
Yeah.
It's so easy to get caught up in the constant go as artists. Savannah was one of the other guests on here, and she was talking about like healthy lifestyle. So she actually makes like smoothie bowls for bands that crash on the floor, and they talk about like health and all these kind of things. And I think that's huge, man.
It is like, I want to play at 80.
Right.
Like physically and then mentally be there. There's some people that I look up to that are getting to that age that are still playing and traveling and touring, and it's such a hard lifestyle. I want to be able to do that. Yeah. And so eating healthy and kind of just even monitoring that, it's like, it's so easy when we do, I'm just going to eat pizza today. And then there's tacos available. Those are in the green room. Let's have those. Yep. And, a week later, and it's like, I haven't had a vegetable.
Right. Peanut butter, those pretzels.
Yeah.
Everything with like peanut butter, and they taste so good.
Yeah.
Like, how many carbs did I have today?
Right. And I'm not like intense with it, but, eating more raw green food and exercising. I feel better.
Are you vegetarian, vegan?
No,
or anything? Just trying to put more vegetables.
Just trying to put more vegetables.
Okay, cool.
I grew up with a personal trainer, my dad, and
Perfect.
We ate turkey bacon and ground turkey. I didn't have a piece of steak until like started working at a restaurant in my 20s.
So you were like, whoa, what is this?
We just never did it. But then, looking at his life, my dad just turned 73 in August. He's on no medication. He lives by himself. He cooks everything. He gardens, and he reads and kicks it, and he's like super healthy.
Yeah.
And I want to be like that.
Exactly. I take that.
Yeah.
So performing and teaching, where did the teaching start for you?
I started subbing for a friend, like when he was out of town, and getting into more regular private lessons. I kind of been teaching off and on. And then there was a need. Brandon Graves came to me, and he was like, man, we really would like to have you teach at the Culture House. Would you consider it? And I was like, oh, man, like, yeah, why not? And it just kind of landed, really.
Nice.
And then students started coming, and I just started noticing. I had a fear that I was, like, horrible at it.
Every day you're coming in like, this is going to run me out.
Yeah, or am I showing them the right things to get them the growth that they want?
Yeah.
Just stuff like that.
Gotcha.
I took private lessons growing up, so it's been in my life forever. And it just kind of took off, and it works out really well, I think I like it better than hustling gigs all the time. Yeah. And then it's very rewarding because now I can talk about music with people that are excited about music.
Like they're just soaking.
Right. Everything. Anything from reading music to scales to chords to, it doesn't matter to me.
Yeah.
My youngest student is 7. My oldest student is like 50.
Nice. So it's a wide variety.
Yeah.
I remember when I was teaching privately, I had, youngest like 6 or 7, and then there was a guy who was probably, I would say late 50s, and he was retiring. He's getting ready to retire, and he's like, I just want to take up a new hobby. I'm like,
right.
All right, that's cool.
A lot of adults come to me where they want to learn music without, especially piano. Like they want to learn piano without going through classical repertoire.
Yeah.
And that's a big part of piano, and you should when you want to be serious about it. It's like you're gonna get the technique. But I think a lot of teachers, they don't want to go a route. Like, you got to do this and this and this. And
you're like, dude, I just want to play at a party and be like, look, I can do it and have fun.
And learn music off the radio.
Yeah.
And so I focus a little bit on technique with that, and then we get to everything you would need to know to do that. Yeah. And then we end up hitting those other areas.
Then they're probably excited, like, oh, that would be cool now, as opposed to like shoving it down their throats.
Right.
Gotcha. Right.
And we only talk about the scales because you're never going to play harmony if you don't know that.
We're only talking about it because, it's vital. So.
It's vital. You need them. And right about the time the kids get bored, like, we get probably like to like G flat or B, and then they're bored, and then they're like, why am I doing this? And then I introduce harmony to them. Nice. And we do some ear training, and then they're like, they get it, and they're excited all over again.
That's cool, man.
So it's
fun.
The
Culture House, can you break down what that is? What's the mission, and what is the Culture House up to?
The Culture House is a really cool place. It's on 119th and Blackball in Olathe, Kansas. Their mission is to share all different styles of culture and different backgrounds and disciplines with children and families, and kind of having a safe haven to be yourself and learn about music and art and dance and all kinds of different things. It's Christian based, but it's super open minded, and I like it a lot actually. A lot of freedom and a lot of really artistic people.
Yeah.
I guess their biggest part of the school is their dance and theater, but they do a lot of different great things with the kids there, and the art program's huge. So it's great to see kids in an extracurricular activity. Because when I walk in and teach piano lessons, I walk probably through 100 kids.
That's crazy.
In theater and ballet
pretty
and dance,
active.
and they're active. And then that leads them to study music, which, sometimes they do art, and it's a little cool. It's a cool place. It's a cool school. I like it. I never even imagined that I would, be teaching. Yeah, still do it.
So, and Brandon, I met him. We played at a zoo once.
Okay,
We had a gig
okay.
At a zoo, we didn't play together. He was one of the other artists in a different section, and got to know him. He seems like got a cool vision.
Yeah.
About him as a person, and then what he's trying to do musically. So.
Right. There's no elitist in any discipline,
Yeah.
where they're going to tell you, well, you can't do this because you're studying the classical side, and it's like you can do it all or whatever you want to do. I think it's also cool that they have a recording studio there, so they're bringing in music technology and making that a bigger part and introducing it to the kids.
That's huge, man.
Because believe it or not, a lot of them are either creating on the computer or wanting to, and then that's their drive to take lessons.
Yeah.
But we got to connect that
It's like
for
they
them.
kind of hit that wall of like, oh, I hear these things, I see these things.
Right.
But now I actually have to learn.
Right.
How to create it.
And when you go to the instrument or VST and a MIDI keyboard pops up,
What do I do?
it hits you like I really need to know about piano now.
Right.
Okay,
Can't just be the drum pad. And,
Right.
That's awesome, man. So you got working out, man. You got teaching. You got playing. What's something that's just fun for you? Like the thing that helps you, I don't know, disengage.
I like to skate, actually.
Skate, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Like skateboard, inline
rollerblade.
Rollerblade.
Yeah,
Okay.
I guess inline. I guess it's inline skating.
I don't know.
Yeah, I'd always grown up at the skate park
Right on.
and doing that, and so I just got a pair of skates maybe about a year ago, and I go out to the park and skate some ledges and small stuff every once in a while, and
working
just
on
kind
your,
of
like,
flow
flips and all that
around.
kind of stuff, and
No air tricks.
not yet.
I'm too old for air tricks. I have to, and that's the other thing. Growing up was really good, so now I back it down. It's super mellow. It's just something fun to feel and rolling around.
Yeah.
And sliding on ledges and just that whole thing.
That's pretty cool, man.
Falling's okay. It kind of reminds you that the physical. When you've been an athlete, that physical part of it. And so I just do that every once
That
in a while.
instant feedback, like, oh, all right.
I'm alive.
Put my left foot like this.
yeah. And so they kind of stay in the car with me, and when I'm out south and on a good day, I just stop by the park on 135th Street.
That's awesome, man.
Roll around for a little bit, and by the time I'm like, okay, if I get caught on something that I can't do, I'm like, all right, good. I'll just come back tomorrow.
Yeah.
I'm not all.
Just as long as you don't break an arm or something.
I wear wrist guards.
Oh, okay.
I wear wrist guards that are plated on both sides for my hands, for
Gotcha.
sure. For
Wise
sure.
man. I think it was Metallica. One of the guys broke one of their arms on tour,
Okay.
skateboarding, that kind of thing. So,
I had some friends do the same thing, actually. It's like things are more important. There's
Yeah.
more important things going on.
you're like, my livelihood, right here. That's cool, though. I got to
Yeah.
see these crazy guards.
They're kind of like, I guess the regular wrist guard, but most of them only have a plate on the palm, and I want a flexible plate on my hand, so if I fall, they'll move, but there's some tension there to keep it from bending all the way back or crushing my fingers or stuff.
Right.
So
That's cool.
it's pretty cool. It's fun still.
Well, sweet. Well, so diving in, right? The idea of this podcast is diving into what drives each person. And so for you, what does it mean in the midst of all this? Because you got so many great things. In the midst of all this, though, what does it mean for you to live a great life?
I guess to live a great life is balance. Balance in what we were talking about and being healthy, and balance in, I guess, as a musician, moving people, sharing your music or your stories with other people to help influence. So a great life is that, It can't just be the music and you become this rock star, and then when you step off stage, it's like nothing. You know, and we've seen that kind of kill people's career in life. So the balance of that, like having friends around, having a community, being healthy, people that strive you to think different, and to me, like, I guess with that balance comes diversity.
Yeah.
I've always grown up with diverse friends, so I want to be around diverse people.
Like different kinds of thinking, different cultures.
Yeah, different
everything.
cultures, different thinking, different, even some things that I don't agree with. You know, they challenge you. It's like you're not meant to agree with everyone, clearly.
Right.
And so that's balance to me. You know, it challenges your mind, and then it influences my music.
Yeah.
You know, it's a direct correlation and pathway. So that's
so easy to get stuck too, just in create a bubble, and especially in this arts world where it's just like you can become so, especially as you're getting on the road or in the studio, it's like your world can become so small.
It can.
Then, yeah, where's the inspiration at
Right.
that point? So,
And I think when an artist doesn't see that and can't handle it, then other issues come into play that stop them from creating.
Yeah.
And you can even you get caught up in fighting that. It's like quicksand, you know? So you don't want to do that.
when I think of like some of the greatest artists, it seems like what'll happen is they'll end up traveling to a different country or traveling, you know, to and meeting different people like in their city, and that inspires that whole new era of music that they put out. So I dig that, man.
And I love travel. Man, I need to travel more.
Well, you were talking about Costa Rica?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So what have you been up to going to Costa Rica? I think it's slipping me. I think it was like Dr. Goins.
Right.
I
first went with Dr. Goins like maybe 4 or 5 years ago for a jazz festival.
Yeah.
Kind of like fell in love with their culture and their way of life and just their attraction to jazz music.
Yeah.
And so I've been going back and forth, sometimes solo to play with Ticos and local Costa Ricans.
Oh, okay.
It's like Ticos and Ticos.
Like how Costa Rican you are.
Yeah, it's
like
funny.
Ticos.
My Spanish is actually horrible. I need to work on that part of it, honestly. But and just going back and living the lifestyle, like I don't just go to the hotel and then play the gig and then like go home, like
watch Netflix and do
Right.
the same thing you would do in America.
we hang,
That's
you know, and I
awesome.
have friends there, so like they show me, you know, because of that I've been to active volcanoes. I learned how to surf in Costa Rica.
Dang, man.
And like camp out on the beach, like, you know, not only play great music, but, you know, experience their lifestyle.
Right.
And other things that they're into. So I've been to reggae festivals. It's kind of wild.
Yeah.
And so I like going back there. I really resonate with their way of life and their way of thinking. It's very relaxed and balanced, you know.
That island kind of vibe.
Yeah. And I guess because of where they are, especially with like African culture, the way that they look at that, because they are American. You get where, you know what I mean? And that's different from being like a North American and seeing how they relate to the same culture as Central Americans.
That's interesting.
As a jazz musician, as you know,
Yeah.
is an interesting thing.
And so how often are you doing shows with local like folks there?
I try to
as
go,
opposed
like-
to bringing in artists from like here in America.
Right.
Here in North America.
I think I haven't been in about a year. I just try to go once a year.
Okay.
The last time I went, I could afford to bring the whole band.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so I brought the whole band that time, and I think we played with a drummer from there, which was great. The 3 times before that, I went. So I brought one guy before when we did a festival. So it's like maybe like half and half. I would like to bring the group more.
So they can experience that same kind of thing.
It's a different kind of vibe when I would go by myself, I would end up teaching the rhythm section how to groove and kind of get the feel of my music. The swing isn't the problem. They have the feel of that, but like they want to learn how to like grab what we've done with live hip hop.
Really?
Like the feel of that, like, and I guess to put into words, like everything you hear Questlove and Chris Dave that they've injected into like the jazz live hip hop feel that we now hear from several drummers and Pino and all that stuff. They're really about that. And my music has a lot of that, so I end up teaching them that, which is cool. But when the whole band comes, they get to experience it from people that have grown up in it.
Right.
I'm now at a point where I'm trying to make a way for them to come here and hang out
Dude, that'd be killer, man.
and because they're playing jazz, like they're playing some deep jazz.
Nice.
like improvised music. So like have them come and show us like this is how we see jazz and this is how we're playing it, and it's fascinating. I love it.
When you talk about that hip hop piece, I know this is a conversation we got into before, where the jazz community sometimes can become so closed off,
Right.
And they'll look at folks. I think of Robert Glasper
Right.
and what he's done for the genre, where it just
Oh, definitely.
blows it way out and puts all sorts of different influences into his
Right.
music. What does that look like for you? Where's your passion lie in breaking jazz?
I'm probably like
its original form, I guess.
It's interesting because like I'm a branch from that same tree, and he's a branch to a bigger part of that tree. You know, we're both from Houston, and then I came up influenced by the things that they were doing in the early stages. That's cool. Back in like 2004, I was listening to a lot of bootlegs that friends were passing down from New York because a lot of the Houston community was in New York.
Okay.
And then
so
I was
they're
like,
popping back and forth.
they were popping back and forth, and that feel is in Houston. Like all the drummers wanted to sound like Chris Day. All the piano players were church musicians, so of course they resonated with Robert Glasper because of that background.
gospel kind
So
of
it was like a hero, and those Houston guys were heroes to us way, way, way back. And so it influences my music then, but then when I moved here, I got into other styles of music. Like I started playing in reggae bands, I started playing with Various Blonde, which like helped me grow my more rock side. My first band to play keyboard in was a rock band.
Angst in there.
Oh yeah, he was like, and Josh is a kind of like an evil genius in that regard because he knows what he wants and he knows what sounds and soundscapes and tools to kind of give you to use. So he's like giving me gear to borrow and like play this, play that, and all that seeped into my music. So when you hear it, it's like not just the neo soul hip hop side that I grew up in. It's like this rock side and then this reggae rhythm type thing. And then I moved here to learn how to swing. So there's this heavy, deep jazz root. It still sounds very traditional in a sense of how we're playing and the language that we're improvising with. So I think it's everything. And from reading more about jazz and the mentality of their creators and masters, it's like that's what it's supposed to be. You're supposed to like inject all these musics into jazz. It's not a genre.
Right.
It's just the art of improvisation. It does have a certain dialect, but it's supposed to evolve. So the mentality of thinking that it's in a box is actually anti-jazz.
That's interesting. That's
you know what I mean?
That's
like
cool to hear someone talk about that.
it's anti the culture. The culture was never about that, even from the age of bebop. It was never like the swing guys hated the bebop
Constantly
guys.
finding that boundary and stepping past it.
Definitely.
Giving it something new.
Because like I mean, I don't know. There's a misconception about the word and everything. Like jazz isn't a genre. It's not actually a genre of music, which is what makes it hard to define.
Interesting. Do you think of it more of a philosophy? In a
Yeah,
sense?
I think about it as a language and a dialect. Like it's a dialect of improvisation. So you'll hear that in Medeski Martin Wood. You'll hear that in Schofield. You'll hear that same dialect in Her. You'll hear that same dialect in Kendrick Lamar. You'll hear that same dialect in what's his? It's Americana band. Guitar player sings with his wife. Tedeschi Trucks.
Oh, okay.
You hear all that in Tedeschi Trucks' music when he goes to play the blues. When the horn players go to improvise, Earth, Wind, and Fire, but we wouldn't consider those genres jazz music.
Right.
But those musicians are versed in the art of improvisation, which is what we call jazz.
That's awesome.
Which allows them to create on that level. That's
that.
how I think about it. And so, man,
that kind of opens up what I think. Like thinking of it that way, I think could open up a lot of people who are afraid of it.
Oh,
to
yeah.
Step into that stream. Because like for me, I was sharing with you when we talked a few weeks ago,
right.
Where I did 2 semesters of jazz in college, and long enough to know that I wasn't a jazz player because I was like, man, that cat's a jazz player. I think I just do rock, like.
right.
But it was an interesting world. But those 2 semesters, understanding the theory and diving into that, it has expanded how I even think about rock.
Yeah.
To this day. And that was years and years ago.
All the way.
And so it's cool to hear someone
Even a group like, when you listen to Francis the Mute by Mars Volta, they have like you hear the influences of jazz, and actually when you hear that band live, they're improvising through all the day. Like, they're nonstop, and there's a lot of improvisation, and there's a lot of those tones and that stuff underneath this psychedelic rock fusion thing.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, it's part of American culture. So
Yeah.
and the world is
It's
taking
one of the
it.
few truly American,
Right.
like designed on our soil kind of thing we have. You know,
Mm-hmm.
the blues and jazz, I think, are those two things. Like, they have their roots in
Right.
in Africa, but it seems like it's truly an American art form.
It is definitely. It is an American art form, and a lot of the the masters like Duke Ellington and especially Duke felt that it was a blending of both cultures. It was something that like we've now kind of stepped in, we've shared and given blood to it. And so it's kind of it's new. What if jazz is the new identity of America and partnership? Because you have to like, and I know like some of the older heads wouldn't necessarily believe that because they've given so much energy to the music, so they feel like they have a right that it's theirs and it hasn't been respected as theirs yet. But a younger dude like me doesn't feel that same way because I've seen like Israeli jazz musicians and Parisian jazz musicians and how they think about it like third person.
Yeah.
And they see it as this freedom of expression that America and the partnership has given them, so they play it out of to be free because a lot of people can't be free. Wow. You know what I mean? Like when we start talking about teenagers in Israeli, like they have to serve after 18.
2 years at least, right?
2 years. So like being free on their instrument and something is a feeling that like, yo, you can't like maybe have in life like that.
Yeah.
And things, so like I think a lot of young kids gravitated around the world because of his freedom.
That's cool.
I think if we looked at it like we're kind of denying our new identity in a way, but it's so powerful. You know, what does jazz do? It brings so many different people together.
It's a much better. It could be an answer to even like political climate of America right now. I love that jazz as a philosophy,
right?
And seeing that, I dig it, man.
Because when you go to a show, it's like it's older people, it's young people, it's people of all different colors. They like all different things. Especially if you go to like a new jazz musician, like the old classic jazz audience is there, and this new jazz audience is there for a whole nother reason, but they're like in the same room, vibing to the same, we're vibrations, y'all. Yeah, they're like, what, you're here?
You're grooving.
I'm here.
All right. Yeah,
right.
We're all cool. It was a good night.
And I think, in the history of our country, it brought people together at that time, the story of Bix Beiderbecke. Like,
what's that?
He was a Caucasian trumpeter who was classical and had a real love for jazz, wanted to be like Louis Armstrong. And great trumpeter, but he started to play jazz. At that time, his family was like, you're not going to play black music.
They're like,
Yeah, right. But he was just like, this feels natural to me. So, like, to learn, you couldn't go to college to learn that art form.
Right.
You had to go to the speakeasies and the jam sessions and, like, hang around black people.
So he's diving in a totally different culture.
Totally different culture. And he got that. And he dedicated it, he dedicated his life to that, regardless of what his family thought. And he's a legend jazz trumpeter.
Wow.
The music it speaks for itself, and he got to finally meet Satchmo, and it was like the best thing in his life. And hearing about that story,
some studying to do. I like that.
It was kind of crazy. Like, okay, you like broke your barriers as a person and saw a whole culture of people differently, and it brought you to them, and they brought you in, and then you learned this music, and you gave back to a lineage of American music.
Right.
You know what I mean?
That's awesome, man.
Which is cool.
And what's his name again?
Bix Beiderbecke.
Big Spiderback?
Yeah.
I'll check it out, man.
Yeah.
That's
classic trumpeter from like, I'd say like 1930s through the 50s. Might be wrong about the dates, but
so he
very
was hanging
early.
out in a lot of rooms that he wasn't supposed to be in.
Right. It would bring white musicians to areas to learn that music that they wouldn't normally be in.
That's it. And it's funny. So I doubt this is the same equivalent, but I was in Texas recently.
Okay.
And took my family to a rodeo.
Yeah.
In, like deep Texas. Okay. And my oldest son, he's black and Mexican.
Okay.
And so he's there, and he's like, we're going to a rodeo. Like, what are we doing?
It's gonna be hot.
And all I could think about was Little Nas X and
Okay.
Old Town Road.
Yeah.
That's all I'm thinking about. And like this cross country thing. And so again, we're deep Texas. We're at this rodeo, watching bull riding and everything. And I see like multiple African Americans with cowboy hats, cowboy boots, and and I'm like, are they
And Hispanic.
Well, yes,
Yeah.
heavy. But it was primarily overall though. It was primarily like Caucasians and African Americans, and I was blown away. And it just made me think of like something that Lil Nas X has done. There's so many debates about that musically, all that kind of thing. But what I've seen it do is like break down barriers where people can just be honest about what they like and what they're into. Whether it be white people who are like, no, I really do like hip hop.
Yeah.
I like Florida Georgia Line.
Yeah,
or
right.
Black people who are like, no, I like going to the rodeo because I'm like, I actually wanted to talk to some of the folks who like, I just didn't think I'd see you here.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to be that weird guy because then my son would have been like, what are you?
It's funny you mention. It's funny you tell me that story because I grew up in Texas, growing up in Houston,
okay.
and my uncle he's a great photographer that spent his life following black rodeos.
Really?
Yeah, so I've had that same experience.
Culture in and of itself, then.
Right.
I didn't even know like a black rodeo existed.
And like off, because they have big rodeos that come to Houston, but the more off kind of backwoods rodeos that would be the scenery.
Yeah.
And and to like my black community, it's like, yo, you forget that that's our culture. You forget that we were ranchers, and that term cowboy comes from the minority side of being a cattle rancher.
Yeah.
And doing that thing. So it's okay to like that music if you're black because it's part of your culture just like jazz is.
Right.
And it's okay to like that music of hip hop because it's part of your culture just like jazz is. Like we both live here.
I wonder if it's a mix of like racism, a mix of even business and how we
It
take
is.
genre and cut
And
it
we cut it,
pieces,
and because you got to sell
that
it.
just drives that. Well,
Yeah.
I remember in college when my roommates was black, a dude named Stefan,
Yeah.
and I was in there playing acoustic guitar, and he walks in and he's like, "Let me grab that," and he puts it on. And he's like, "Dude, all my friends back home, shit they would give me,
Yeah,
sitting here
they
holding
would."
this." And I started laughing. I was like, honestly, man. Like a lot of the original guitarists were black.
Yeah.
And he didn't even know that.
He didn't know.
And he's just looking at me like, what? And so
Yeah.
we started talking through that. But yeah, it's weird how in a very short time we forgot about that.
Well, yeah, our conditioning stops us from appreciating things on a human level.
Right.
Because we're conditioned to think about things differently as when we become adults. You know, and as a musician, I see this a lot because I'll do these corporate gigs where they're there with their kids and their family, and all the adults are in the back of they hired us and paid us all this huge money, and we're appreciative. We love you, you know, because we do want to share art, and it's not even about that. But
Right.
you notice that
We got to pay our bills. So.
right, and they're in the back, but then the kids, probably about until 10, are dancing or moving or having a good time
Right.
to jazz music. When everyone else has been conditioned that you shouldn't dance to this.
Right.
And it's made you listen to it in a different way, but you see the kids
It's
naturally
heavy music
react.
that you must-
Yeah, but they're grooving. They're like, and like they don't care that we're in odd meter. They don't care that they just know it
just
feels
feel it.
good.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like, I don't really like Nas X, but I respect, what he's doing. And if it's him, then be you.
Right.
Like, and there obviously is a lane for that. And he's standing on the shoulders of other black cowboys or people in that culture that have started that we like kind of ignore or forgotten about because where we are or whatever. But I don't have any argument toward it. Like I said, I personally don't resonate it, but it's not about me.
Right. Well, and it's so vast. I think that's what's been amazing about where we are. I feel like now is the most opportunity for any artist.
Right.
It's harder in some respects,
Right.
but then in some respects it's not. And the fact that I can listen to an artist from France and then listen to an artist from South Dakota no one's heard of, and then listen to like an artist in Alaska who just posted something yesterday. Like those are things I can do leaving this interview and going home that you can never like
Before you could never
would
do
have
that.
had to like fight tooth and nail to find artists like that. And I think to me it gives me so much hope because I feel like genre is becoming dismantled and people
Right.
are back to that feeling like people are coming, this just feels good. You see it even in pop music of artists who, well, Lil Nas is an example, but you even see like big artists like Ed Sheeran or like bringing in Celtic influences, and even though he's like this major pop artist, or Taylor Swift who's got like a weird country ballad in the middle of her
right.
80s rock anthem thing that she's doing.
Right.
And that gives me a lot of hope for music in general. And it gives me hope, like, even as we talk about this, where it's like cultures in general, whether it be race or even like economics, all those things can kind of break down when it comes to music if we let it.
Right. We need the freedom in music like that we have with food.
Yeah.
You don't say that when you go to a Chinese restaurant, even though it's Chinese American, but even in that,
Right.
you've blended what you like about their culture and what you like about your culture.
In the crab ragoon. It's amazing.
And I mean, you've made it, different a little. And I was watching this food documentary on Netflix, and they were talking about. He broke it.
We lost a little audio there. There we go.
They were talking about like the Vietnamese community in Houston and what they've done with crawfish.
Yeah.
And they're now Vietnamese mixed Houston South crawfish restaurants in Vietnam.
Interesting.
Or Cajun, we'll say Cajun.
Yeah.
There's Cajun crawfish restaurants in Vietnam. Kind of made their way, but kind of like the South because it is different and the mixture of both is good, but like Vietnamese people love it. Mm-hmm. And it's still so it's like if we thought about music like that, there's no bias when it comes to different cultures of food.
Right.
I think the number one, there are more Chinese restaurants in America than any other restaurants in America.
Because of crab ragoons. That's my argument.
And Chang's chicken. Right.
There you go.
But I think that's fast. I think that's interesting.
It is.
To look at it like whoa, wait a minute.
That's cool, man.
And I think music should just be looked at the same way.
Yeah. Well, and that hits on that. Like we talked about living a great life and this idea of balance. We took this tangent into solving the world's problems through jazz, and then, and we probably already hit on this. But when you think of creating great things, what does that mean to you?
I think creating great things to me just like. It means something that will stand the test of time, something that's beautiful but unique, that has longevity. Like if you can listen to it and it reaches multiple people, then there's it might be great. I mean, multiple people resonating and getting what they want out of it, which is different from the next person throughout the years. I think that sometimes it happens. Sometimes it doesn't, but that's kind of what that means for me. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. Yeah. Well, and I love that point of it's great to them, and I think too often as artists, I get stuck in this trap. Like we're creating for ourselves,
right?
As opposed to creating like the purpose of getting. Like if I'm creating for myself, I can stay in my room. But why the hell am I getting in a car or a van and touring across the nation on stages trying to play for other people if I'm not trying to do something for them?
Exactly.
So I love that point. That's really cool.
Yeah, I'm not the one listening to my music. It's like, it's other people.
When I don't know if you're like me, like for me to after, like, because those songs you write sometimes for years, sometimes for months, and you spend hours and hours, you're in the studio. Like most of the time, I don't even want to listen to it ever again.
Right.
Because I can't tell you how many thousands of times I've gone through, like, even just one little lyric. So, yeah, it's like this, obviously, at this point now, is for somebody else.
It's for sharing.
At least in my mind. So,
right. You're thinking about it right. We're thinking about it right.
Well, that's awesome, man. Well, let folks know where they can connect with your music or connect with you.
I guess you can connect with me on social media. I guess mainly right now it's Instagram. So my handle is More Piano, 2 M's like my last name.
Right on.
I mean 2 O's like my last name, 2 M's.
Yeah,
right. So
and I'll put it in the notes and tag it and everything too. So
More Piano, and then you can keep up with my music just looking up Eddie Moore in the Outer Circle. We have some stuff out with We the People, but I'm working on a new project for that.
Awesome. And, so looking out for a new We the People
down
the road.
And Eddie Moore in the Outer Circle music is definitely out there. We're still doing some stuff.
Awesome.
And yeah.
Well, cool, man.
Anyway.
Well, thanks for hanging out. This
man, thanks for having me.
It inspires me, and now I know I need to go and check out some other artists I haven't even heard of before.
So much crazy good music.
Well, thanks, man.
Yeah, thank you.
The Live and Create podcast.